Hi everybody, good morning. Today I want to show you a little about grammar, and I want to show you two pages and two websites in particular that are very good in relation to grammar. Okay, so if I share the screen, and you can see here on the left is the internet. Okay, so that's the browser, and I want to show you the British Council. So for me, in relation to grammar, the British Council are probably one of the best. Okay, British Council is number one, and equally, the Cambridge website for grammar is also fantastic as well. So here we have the Cambridge website on the right, and on the left we have the British Council website. So if we click, just to show you the way, if you click here to enter the British Council grammar section, okay, and then you at the bottom, we'll click grammar at the top. Okay, and there's three different sections. There is intermediate, and just let me move the camera so you can see. There is at the bottom, you have beginner to intermediate, intermediate to upper intermediate, which is B1 or B2. And again, beginner is maybe A1 to A2. So if you have any doubts or any, if you want to study a little in relation to grammar, I recommend this section. For B1, B2 is the middle section, and the final section is just grammar reference, okay? So probably it's more complicated and more detailed explanation, probably for the advanced in this section. So today I want to look at the middle section, the B1 and the B2 in relation to grammar, okay? And you click the page and you have a long list of very interesting grammar topics and grammar points on the left. So as, like, enough, in spite of, despite, although, even though, and though, very interesting topics. So if we continue just to show you at the list, okay, so it's a long list: conditionals, talking about the future, the modals, comparisons, participle clauses, passives, okay, used to, would and past simple, past perfect, phrasal verbs, present perfect, present perfect simple and continuous, question tags, very interesting, very important. So there's a long list. Okay, so I'll bring you to the bottom, reported speech. And today I just want to start a little with the explanation of as and like. En español es como, pero en inglés tenemos dos palabras, as and like. Y la diferencia es muy importante para usar, okay? So the difference is very important to use in English. And let's open the page. And after this explanation of as and like from the British Council, I will also enter into Cambridge, same topic. So here we have as or like, and we have a little explanation here on Cambridge as well. But first I want to show you the British Council structure of the page, because it's really easy to use and it's very comfortable, very good quality, and also you have exercises as well. So here is the introduction, and the first section you have little examples, okay, and then we go to the next section where it has a grammar explanation. So really it's a grammar explanation in every part. There's the explanation, and at the bottom we have another exercise. So that's exercise 2 here. And just at the beginning, we have exercise 1 also, grammar test 1. So it's a very good website, a clear explanation and examples also, okay, for exercises. So let's look at the start. Do you know how to use as and like correctly? So that's the question. And in the Cambridge exams, maybe the description of the picture is very interesting as well. So if you want to practice in the future about describing the picture in relation to Cambridge exams, that's very interesting, okay? So look at these examples, so plural, these examples, to see how as and like are used. So I worked as an actor, that's the profession, for 2 years. So for me, as is profession. In relation to a job, in relation to a profession, we say as. Work as a doctor, work as a teacher, work as a scientist, trabajo como. And the big error, the typical error when Spanish people speak, or Spanish speakers speak in English, they say I work like a doctor. That's incorrect, okay? That's the big error. So the correct way is work as. I work as a doctor when it's a profession. Okay. I went home, so the verb to go here in the past simple. I went home early as I felt ill. Okay, in this situation, it's a linker and the significance is porque, because, okay? And felt is irregular, past, ill is the adjective. He looks as if, so very good combination. In English, you can say as if and as though. So you have as if and as though. Let me write so you're clear. As if and as though. And I think it's the same in Spanish, like como si or como aunque. But after, you have the clause in English. So after as if, normally you have a subject, a verb, and an object, another clause, clausula after this phrase, okay? And then the next one, as you know, como sabes, no problem, very normal, as you know. This is the third time I've had to complain. The verb to complain, so you're very sure, it's very important in English. I'll show you in word reference. Complain is here. And the verbo, quejarse. Okay, so very important verb to complain. And here it's the third time. The past perfect, or the present perfect, I have had to complain. Okay, this one, he looks like. In relation to comparison, we use like. He looks like his dad. And also in relation to the verb for the senses, like look, smell, sound, always we have like after. Look like, smells like, sounds like. Okay, that's another tip. And in relation to a role, como jugar un papel, a role, she's like a sister for me. And after the role, we have the substantivo. So it's like a home for me. Italy is like a different home for me. So that's a little trickier. But basically after the like in relation to a role or a function, we have the substantivo, okay? Try to do something relaxing like, so in this example, when in English, por ejemplos, we say examples, we say like or such as, okay? So I have a lot of hobbies or activities like swimming, running, painting, okay? So like or such as running, such as painting. When it's a comparison, they are the two, okay? So like or such as for comparison. Okay, and that's the explanation in the last part. So it's an example, like reading a book or having a bath or taking a bath. Okay, so they ask us to do grammar test 1 at the beginning. So let's try, and you can do this yourself, of course. Como sabes, and because it's the beginning of the sentence, it's a capital letter, as you know. So we drag, I think here. Yeah, click and click. I'm looking for a job. So it's a profession and a job, a diving instructor. And it's como, but because it's a job, it's as, okay? I was so tired, tan cansado, I slept past irregular. So it's a comparison. He slept like a comparison of a baby, and in a comparison, we normally say like. Okay, study as hard. This is interesting. There's a structure in English with as plus adjective plus as. That is a typical structure. As plus adjective plus as happy as tired as. Also, we say as much as, okay? So that's the same category. And here it's as hard as. So that's the structure. As, adjective, plus as. Let me write. As plus adjective plus as. And we will see the explanation now, okay? So he wants the present simple to be a nurse, something he loves, helping people. So in this situation, it's probably porque, because. And remember, because also has the significance of as. Okay, so it's very important, very flexible word. And in this situation, it's porque, which in this case is as. Okay, so let's click as and as. The next one, this song sounds, so it's a verb of the senses, okay? So it's like sound, smell, looks. And remember, after the verbs of the senses, it's normally like, okay? So in this case, it's sounds like, okay? David Bowie. I made a mistake. So hacer un error. I made a mistake in the past simple, but I just continued something if. So como si, I think we saw the first example, as if or as though. And I think you can see here, as if or as though. So for me, it should be as, okay? As if nothing had happened. And the final one, the music was playing. That's the past continuous. Something mientras. I think the best answer here is mientras, or while. Okay, so let me write that in the document here. So remember, as is also because, and as is also mientras, which in English is while. Okay, so remember, mientras obviously is Spanish and because is English. Okay, while, and in this case, as is the position or the function of mientras, while they walked into preposition the church. Okay, so I hope they're the correct answers. It's possible some mistakes, but let's see. So where's the results? 8 from 8. Okay, so that's level B1 or B2. And that's the reason it's a good website, because they have good exercises and good explanation. Okay, so the next one. Now we have the explanation. Okay, so as and like are often confused, since, como porque, they can both, ambos, be used for comparisons. There are, however, important differences. Okay, so to make comparisons, as plus adjective plus as, which I explained for a comparison, or as much as. Okay, so we often use the structure as, adjective as, or as much as, to say if something has or doesn't have the same amount of quantity as something else. So it's a comparison. Okay, so let me show you just the color here so I can identify. So she loves, that's the present simple. Okay, curry is the food. As much as, so it's a comparison, as much as I do. And here it's the auxiliary verb do, and it really means the same as the verb previous, like. Okay, so she loves curry as much as I love curry is the same. So do is the substitution and the replacement. Okay, so a little tricky, but the structure is as much as. Very important in English, so important, and very good for your linkers and for cohesion and fluency in English. Okay, again, a comparison with the adjective. So the adjective is tall, alto, as tall as. The negative in the present simple, he is not as tall as his brother. So comparison. Expensive is the adjective, caro in Espanol, as expensive as. Okay, and the negative again, the verb to be, it is not expensive as the other hotel. Okay, so that dog is, and again, big is the adjective, as big as that child. And then we have the demonstrative, that dog. So singular, this dog, that dog, these and those, plural. Okay. Now we also have as in the expression the same as. So this is an expression, the same as. Your phone is the same as mine. Very important. Texting is not the negative, the same as speaking in person. So an important structure as well, the same as. Okay. Very good. So let's continue. The next part is the difficult part with like and the noun. So I'll get my color again. And here you can see like plus the substantivo or the noun. In the following comparisons, like is followed by a noun or a pronoun, okay? To say that two things are similar. So because it's a substantivo, a noun, we use like when it's a similarity or comparison, okay? And I think in the previous examples, we had the same situation. She's acting like, so it's a substantivo, a child, and it's a comparison, so like a child, acting, behaving, comportamiento, okay? It's like a burger, so substantivo, a burger, and because it's a substantivo, it's like, with big mushrooms instead of in lugar de, okay? There are lots of people like us, so that's the pronoun, okay? That's the object pronoun, okay? Like me, like you, like him, like her, like us, okay? Or like them. And because of the pronoun or the substantivo, it's like. Okay, and that's very interesting and very important section. So let me remove the color. So that section is very, very important. The next one, it's common to make comparisons using like with verbs of the senses, and that's the explanation: smells, sounds, looks, and that was the example we had. So verb of the sense, looks, the present simple, looks like. Sounds in the verb of the sense, sounds like. Tastes, sabor, or gustar, like. Okay. Smell, again, oler, smells like. Feel is a verb of the senses, feels like. Very interesting and very important section, and very useful. Okay. The next part, let's continue to the next section. As if or as though, as we saw already, como si or como aunque. And here we have as if or as though plus the clause. And I think this is the key, the clause. Okay. So you look, that's the present simple, as if, and then the clause, and another subject, verb, and object. A ghost phantasma. Okay. I felt, okay, the first clause, as if, and then the second clause, subject, verb, and object. That's a clausula. Okay. You talk as though or as if. So you can replace as though or as if, no problem. And then the next clause, clausula, with the subject, the verb, and the object. Okay, so that's the rule or the instruction with as if or as though. Giving examples. With giving examples, we normally say like or such as. Very important. So you could try a team. So it's the modal. Try a team sport like an example, football, basketball, or hockey. You should take something soft, such as. To lie and tumbar say on, the preposition. Okay, so for an example, we say like or such as. That's the grammar explanation. Okay, let's continue to the next section, the function or the job. And for me, this is probably the most typical error and the most typical mistake that a lot of people make in general in relation to your job or a function, particularly job, as I explained before. So we can use as plus the substantivo to talk about a job or a function. I worked as a shop assistant. That's the job. So as a shop assistant. And then the next one is a little bit more difficult as a function to understand. And he used his coat as. So it's like a substitution or a function. So the coat was a blanket, un manta, to keep warm. Okay, interesting and a lot of detail. So let's continue to connect. So this is a different part of the explanation. And as to connect two phrases. So as has a meaning of porque, because, mientras, or in the way that. And for me, this is different from the previous explanation. Okay, so as can be used as a conjunction to connect two phrases, and it can have different meanings. So porque, because. All the tickets were sold out. So that's a phrasal verb. They are sold out. That's the phrasal verb. And it means no more tickets available. Okay, the opposite is they are on sale. That's another combination that's very important. They are on sale, or they are for sale. They are available, okay? So that's the opposite, available. And remember, the verb is to sell. The past simple is, irregular, sold, regular past. And the substantivo is the sale. That's very, very important. So rebajas in relation to the shops in English are the sales. Rebajas, substantivo, plural. Okay? So here the tickets were sold out as we got there too late because the road was closed, I had to park on the next street. So here it's because. So very interesting. The next one is mientras, while. She called mientras, while I was getting out, saliendo of the bath. Okay? As they were arriving, mientras we were leaving. Very interesting and very important to understand the explanation and the use. Okay. The next one is in the way, or the manera. En la manera que. So as we expected, in the way that we expected, it started to rain. In the way that you know, classes restart on January 15th of January. In the way that you know, I said, so it's really in the way that. It's a bit difficult to understand, but that's the logical explanation. And as I said, I think this project will be a challenge, un reto in Espanol. And then finally, note. Okay, so note that in informal speech, people sometimes say like, yes. Okay, so in informal speech, like we expected, like you know, like I said, that's very, very common in conversation. There's no real difference in conversation, absolutely none. But grammatically, and to be more correct, according to the British Council, they say as is technically correct ahead of like in that case. Okay, so let's try the second exercise, and you can see obviously B1 or B2, so it's similar to the first. So she worked. A journalist is a profession or a job, so probably again it's as, I think. Okay, writing her first novel. You look just something your mother, when a smile, so it's substantivo and it's a comparison. So I think like your mother. If you use as, it's not a big problem. People will understand you if you use as in that case, but obviously you want to be grammatically correct for exams and just to have an understanding. So for that reason, it's important to know the correct answer. We've only just met, so the verb meet, como conocer, reunir, but I feel, so it's a verb of the senses, sentir, and with the verb of the senses, it's normally like. I feel like. Well, no, because we have though. So normally, feel is with like, but because you have though, we need to say as though, okay? And that's a little trick, so I can remove that. And the reason is here. So that has priority, with as though has priority over feel. Okay, and they said I didn't have, so as much as was the structure, very important, but it's difficult because as is after experience, so maybe you do not identify it, but the structure is as much as in the comparison. The next one, we were late, we had to get an expensive taxi, so probably porque. And also the capital letter, I think, is the indication as well. So because it's the capital letter, it's porque. As we were late, we had to get an expensive taxi. Caro and obligation. And get is like obtain, or in this case, catch. Okay? Sleep, dormir, in the past, irregular. On, the preposition for the train. Using my jacket, and this is the function. So it's a change of the function from the substitution of the function for, and in that case we say as a pillow. And in normal situations you can probably say like as well. There's no big difference really, and I think as is correct there. I need to double check. I have a little doubt because of my memory. Okay, so many fruit trees need insects, and this is an example. So they need insects, for example, bees and butterflies. So we say such as or like. So there's no option for such as, so it has to be like. And the final one, I like listening to. The preposition is very important. Listen to music, listen to the radio. That's another very typical error and very typical mistake that people make. So the correct way is listen to the radio, listen to the television. So that's very important to remember, listen to. So I like listening to music. I do hacer the ironing con la plancha. So probably mientras. I think the most appropriate here is mientras. And remember, mientras has a substitution for as. And I think it's the only option that we have left also. So I think everything is correct. So we'll enter as, and we'll press finish, and we'll get the results at the top. 8 from 8, so very good. B1 and B2 level. And that's the explanation. So for me, that page on that website, the British Council for Grammar, is very important, very valuable, and very clear and very good, really. Okay, so just to review, we had like and as in the examples. For comparison, as plus adjective as, or as much as. Okay, the next one was when it's a substantivo, a comparison. We use like a father, like a child. Okay, and in that situation, as in informal conversation is no real problem. And then the verbs of the senses: looks like, sounds like, tastes like, smells like, feels like. Okay, the next one, as if or as though, with a clause. As if here with the next clausula. Okay, as if with the next clausula, and as though the same. Examples: por ejemplos, such as or like, very important. A function, as, or a job, shop assistant, or the blanket, or the abrigo. And then the next part is very important and a little different: as porque, as mientras, or as en la manera que. Okay, well done. So that's very interesting and very important grammar explanation. So now let's move to just a Cambridge explanation, just to be sure. And they explain the same concept in slightly different way. But if you don't want to be confused, maybe stop and just focus on the British Council. But if you want an alternative explanation, we can look now at the Cambridge explanation. So the same. They are prepositions and conjunctions, different meanings. Okay, as plus noun is like in the role or the function, like as a father, as a child, or the jacket as a abrigo como un manta. Okay, like plus noun means similar to, like a father. So there's very little difference in this explanation and the previous page. So compare these if you want, and I won't explain it all because you can read it yourself, I think. The two examples there, and then the next part we use like to compare two things. She's got a headache like me. As me, they say technically is incorrect, but in conversation it's no real problem and people will understand you with no difficulty, but technically there's a little difference. Okay, and they're like the other students, he finds it a bit difficult to get to lectures. And again, there's no real difference in conversation, in my opinion, but grammatically, that's the explanation. When we compare appearance or behavior, like a castle, because it's appearance, and then the jobs, as I said, as a teacher. Okay, and then the conjunction as and like have the same meaning when used in comparisons. Like is a little more informal, so that's maybe interesting to remember. Nobody understands him as I do is the same significance. Nobody understands him like I do. So they say like is a little more informal. Okay, so that's just a small explanation of the grammar. And I hope that you understand it. Again, I recommend the 2 pages, the British Council and the Cambridge website for grammar. Hopefully I can do more explanations with grammar in the next weeks. And if you have any comments, please put them in the box. And hopefully talk to you soon. Okay, thank you very much and bye-bye.